I just always approach my job as someone who's there to serve, like we're in the service industry, and yes, we're creatives and we're artists, and like that's super special and cool. But, we're ultimately like back of house.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome, Peyton, the amazing Peyton.
Thank you so much for having me.
So happy to have you here. One of our all-time favorites to work with, and just ridiculously talented. So this is Peyton Frank, videographer to the stars, truly. We had the pleasure of working with her in France a few years ago, and it was a standout experience, honestly. Just lovely, exceptionally talented, and it's our pleasure to have you for a conversation here today and learn
oh my
from
goodness.
you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was such an honor to work with you all. And we just shot the most gorgeous wedding in the south of France together. And, with Lynn Easton, with Matthew Robbins, it was really, truly a dream team. So I'm so excited to be here with you and to get into it.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that, does it? As I hear you say it that way, you're like, pretty perfect.
I'm running through it in my mind now. That property was like a storybook, like inside and outside, like just exceptional, right? And then Lynn running around with lines and strings, and it's just great.
It's hard to top, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Well, we want to start, just tell us a little bit about your story. What's your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went to college in Texas, TCU, for art history and philosophy. I originally wanted to go to grad school and go that whole route, but I actually ended up completely randomly interning for a wedding planner. I had just driven by a studio. I didn't know what it was. It just had a really cute name. And I looked it up online, and she was hiring for an intern. And I thought, gosh, I'm in a sorority. I can plan events. Like, this sounds fun. So I started interning for her, and it was an incredible experience. I got to work on the weekends. I got to go to weddings. This was a completely new world to me. I had never even heard of this stuff before.
Yeah.
And, I got to meet a lot of people, just photographers and florists and calligraphers. And I saw how many people and women and small businesses and artists that this industry supports and, supports financially. And I met a lot of people who had left, their jobs in the medical field or whatever they had done, their PhD jobs, to, work in weddings. And I was like, gosh, there's something to this, and this is really special. So I continued college. I knew, as I was getting towards graduation, that I did not want to be a wedding planner. I did not want to do timelines and budgets and all of the things that I have so much respect for. All of our planners, all the things that they do. So I kind of just took some time, and I randomly took a photography class as my final elective credit in college. So I had to buy a camera. At the time, I think I spent like $1,200, and to me, that was a lot of money. And I was like, gosh, does this make sense that I just choose a different elective? But I reasoned it. I said, you know what, I'll have this camera forever. It's fine. I'm going to invest in this. And, little did I know, it led to a whole career and a whole life that I could have never imagined. But I fell in love with photography. I still knew I didn't want to be a photographer. It took some time, and eventually I was taking photos at a calligraphy workshop, one of my friends' workshops, and I looked down at my camera and I saw the video mode button. And in that moment, I was like, this is it. I'm going to make videos. I had no idea, you could take a DSLR or mirrorless camera and make videos with it. I had made videos as a kid on, camcorders or whatever, and just wasn't aware of what the technology was. So I knew nothing about the settings. I didn't know how to edit anything. I just started doing it. And took that footage from that workshop and edited it on iMovie, whatever. And I just kept doing it. And people kind of started seeing these videos. And, then I'd have a photographer friend say, hey, I want a video of me for my website, and so on, until eventually someone was like, well, you're making all these little videos for people. When are you going to film a wedding? And I said, gosh, I don't think I've ever watched a wedding video. I know that there are wedding videographers at these weddings that I've, helped plan, but I've never seen a video. But you know what? I'll try it. And so I did, and I just fell in love with it. It was such a different perspective being on the wedding day, being, present and in the moment with the couple and capturing those memories versus, coming from the perspective of timeline and budget and logistics and everything. And I was like, this is just magical. And my second wedding was a destination wedding at Nizuc in Mexico.
My goodness.
And so I was very fortunate, and things just kind of took off. And over time I learned more things. There was a point where I realized, I have to record audio. That's my job as the videographer. But it was truly like trial and error, learn as you go. I was getting opportunities, saying yes to every single one of them and figuring it out after.
Yeah. And obviously the technical journey has been a journey, but like the shooting and telling the story, that just came to you intuitively. Like that was, you're like, I get this from a planning perspective. Maybe that background helped you. Like, I get what the flow is. I'm curious.
Yeah. I think knowing a wedding timeline so well, and also the perspective of understanding, because I had worked for a planner, but I'd also interned for a florist and for a paper designer and all of this. So I understood how much work was going into every single little detail, and that these weren't just pretty details. These were details with a lot of story and intention and meaning behind them. So I think I just respected every player in as a creative partner and what they were bringing to the wedding and how a wedding flowed and what was important to the couple and how to be, someone who was easier to work with. And I think that perspective was really important. And then I do think, I was very privileged to get to study something like art history in college. And I spent years looking and analyzing composition and form and lighting. And I think that was, an incredible experience. And then I think that I that was just ingrained in me, and I got to take that with me. So I feel very fortunate that things worked out. Originally I went to college pre-med, so things just kind of happened, and I could have never planned for it to work out this way, but I'm so fortunate that it did.
It's interesting that like the wedding world, the wedding industry is still one of those places that you can still learn yourself, teach yourself, be an apprentice, like work your way in without having to go to a formal education. And as much as that sometimes is a bad thing because it can be an industry of amateurs, if you will, it's also a great thing because you can come in at any level and work your way, as you've proven, work your way as far as you want to go.
Yeah. I mean, in those early years, I was literally, after I graduated, I would stand outside of my school's library and wait for someone to leave so I could sneak in and use my old login to edit off of their computers because I didn't have a computer that could handle video software.
I love that.
But you see what, like, this is one of those things as well, like for our audience, it's that tenacity. It's that hunger. It's like a self-starter mindset, right? Like no excuses. I don't have this. I'm just going to go figure it out. I'm going to go there. I'm going to enter. I'm going to glean from all of these things that I've gathered, right? Because it's interesting listening to you describe your philosophy. All of that, me and James experienced in you within like 5 minutes in France.
Yeah.
This, like, it's not just about you. Like, it's important to us as well. It's not, we're not just there to grab photos. We want to be good collaborators. And so you immediately were like, there's a like-minded artist, and then just obviously talent, incredible talent. Okay.
Well, thank you guys.
No, it's true. But shifting a little bit more towards the business side. So I love hearing how you kind of got into this, how you've taught yourself, how you've learned how to do the amazing work that you do. Let's talk a little bit about marketing. How did you learn to market? Like, where do you access most of your clientele? Tell us that story a bit.
Yeah, so absolutely most of my clientele is coming from photographer or planner recommendation. So that comes from serving my planners and photographers really well, being someone who's great to work with, who's collaborative, who's down for, anything to make it happen for our client, as well as Instagram. I do still get clients who reach out directly to me and want to work with me. And, sometimes I'm in the position where I get to refer out a photographer or even a planner. And that's a really great position to be in. And it feels really good too, to be in that position. But majority of my leads are referrals from other vendors. And that just comes from cultivating respect and trust and, people understanding this is a solid team player who can deliver what the client wants without making my life harder or getting in my way, and being professional and showing up on time and having read the timeline and all of that.
Yeah, I asked that because it can seem like you're just incredibly talented and the work is just coming your way, but you said it there, like that word cultivate. Nurturing those relationships. Like we talk about it like plots of land, like watering it, maintaining it, over the years. I'm curious, what does that look like for you?
Yeah.
After you've gotten the work, yeah.
After I've gotten the work, having an open line of communication, especially with a photographer, for me, is really important. There can be a lot of conversations that, as the cinematographer, I might not be a part of, the creation of the timeline of, just a lot of key decisions that maybe photo gets a bit of say in. I've oftentimes, been left out of that, or, I show up in a conversation between the client, the planner, and the photographer's already happened that I wasn't aware of. So I think it's advocating for me, but it's advocating for me so that I can best serve my client and create the best video that I can. And that's immediately opening that line of communication with the photographer and saying, hey, I'm Peyton. This is what I do. This is my approach. I want to communicate with you. I want to know, when are you shooting the paper flat lays or bridal details? Are you doing this the day before? Are you scouting the location the day before? I would love to join you on that. I'd love to chat through how you're going to shoot ceremonies, so that way I'm not in your way. And, we can kind of team up and work side by side, so that way I'm never in your frame.
Yeah.
All of these things are just really important to do so that I can, provide my best product and service to a client, but also so I can be of service to the vendor team and be someone that they want to work with, and that leaves a lasting good impression, and that they want to refer me to their amazing clients that, honestly, they've probably put a lot more marketing effort into getting than I have to do, because I can build these relationships.
Yeah, and I want to add this, everything she just said there, she did with us, and they made an immediate impression. We literally went home after the first event saying, okay, we want to refer her. We want to work with her again. So I'm just saying to the audience listening here, this is not just cheap talk. She really does this, and it really works. And I watched you that weekend with the planning team as well, with Lynn and Matthew and their team, doing the exact same thing, right? And that's huge value. So instead of spending money on SEO, all these other things, if you do this well, that's personal connection. It's immense value, right?
Yeah, if I remember right, didn't you either between days of events or the day after, didn't you drive several hours away to go shoot some B-roll for the planner?
Yeah. So to Lynn, and she had, this idea of this property that was, nearby in the same region. And she thought, well, it'd be beautiful if you could go and film this and we could put something on Instagram, and I did that. I went really above and beyond. This was my first time working with Lynn Easton, and I think anyone listening knows that that's a huge deal. I was so excited.
Yeah.
I was so ready to do whatever it took to over deliver and to really blow her away. And I did. I went out of my way. And in the moment, there were moments that were tough. I wasn't, as rested or I love to just know what's going to happen. And there were things that happened that I didn't plan for ahead of time. Yeah. And I just took it, and I just showed up as, I am here to serve, and I'm here to build this relationship. And it was so much fun, and it was so invaluable. And I've worked with Lynn so many times since, and it's, you know, just absolutely life-changing and career-changing. And her, you know, we all know just her expectation of service and quality of everything that she does is so incredibly high that working with her will make you a better person. It will make you a better person for your client and for yourself and for your team. And it's just been such a gift and joy to work with such a powerhouse, you know, that Easton Events is. You know, her entire team, they're all just wonderful, incredible, you know, women and submitting to.
No, they're wonderful and incredibly gracious and kind, but for sure you straighten up. I do. You're just like, pay attention, because there's somebody walking a line with a string, you know, you're like, okay. And it's loose and it's beautiful and it's authentic, but there's a clear standard. And I love that, you know, the attention to detail is just off the charts.
Yeah, I think before I worked with her, I had asked someone, you know, what's your advice to working with Lynn, or what's she like? And someone said, well, she notices everything. And I think that is so true. And I think just having that in your back of the mind, whenever you're working with a discerning client, whether that be a planner or, you know, these clients that we have who have experienced the best of everything in the world, they notice everything. And just keeping that in back of mind, it goes such a long way.
Yeah.
I wanted to dig in. You mentioned it, just this photographer videographer relationship. I just want to dig into that with you a little bit, because like we were saying before, we noticed it immediately that this was going to be a collaborative process. And that's really what we're always looking for in that relationship, right? We want everybody to be able to get what they need, but to do it in a way that's collaborative. But do you have any thoughts, tips? Like, how do you see that? I mean, you kind of talked about it a little bit, but I think it's an important conversation to have.
Absolutely.
Because it changes everything, right? About how the working relationship and how you actually go about filming or photographing the wedding day.
Yeah. So I'll say, from a guest perspective and from a client perspective, you're one team. Like, they don't know who's video and who's photo. They don't know that you're two different companies. Half the time, they don't even know that I'm taking video and not photo. It doesn't matter how obvious it might look to me.
So true.
They don't know. So I think, you know, you have to have a united front. You have to be collaborative. My brand is your brand on a wedding day. We're side by side the entire time. You know, you don't want to be that weak link who is bringing the entire team down, you know, either from an outside perspective or how it feels to shoot the wedding. You know, we're so lucky to travel to these beautiful places, to see these gorgeous events, to witness these special moments. And we deserve to enjoy them as a team, and just making sure that you're keeping the energy up. And if someone has a low moment, that you help to support and bring them back up. You know, because there are moments, you know, there are times when a photographer might be having a tough day, or myself, you know, I'm like exhausted, been traveling, whatever. And you just want to come to work in a positive environment and to serve the client. So, you know, I think it's that communication, it's that respect, it's that, like, we are a team, you know, no matter what, like, we're serving the same client, and all that matters is that they're happy with their photo, with their video, with their planning team, you know, the creative team. We really are just a collaboration, and we're in it together.
Yeah. And then it becomes the most incredible job, if you will, in the world, right? Because it's easy, the work is better, the experience, like, you're in this incredible team. It's not just me and James now, it's us with Peyton and with Lynn and with Dawson and with Matthew Robbins and with Provence, probably however you say that property's name. It's better. It's clearly better than just me and James. And so why would we come in and go, we're photo and we're here to take photos? Because ultimately it's about the experience. That's what these clients care about, you know, more than anything. So this is that. And when you do it this way, man, it's fun. As opposed to going to war with a videographer on a day that you're not even invited to. Why would you do this? Anyway,
absolutely. And I think it's just bringing that to every single event. It doesn't matter how amazing or not amazing your team is, and even more so if you show up to a wedding and maybe the photographer or videographer is having an off day, or they don't work in a way that's up to your standard, that means it's even more on you to help lift them and raise, them up and raise the whole team up, to give the client an experience that is up to your standard. Something that I've learned through working with my good friend, Katie Mary, who's an amazing photographer, is the importance of scouting a location ahead of time, and doing that with the photographer and videographer together is invaluable. It's when a lot of great conversations can come up about, what is important to us, maybe where we want to take the couple, or, who's going to be where. And, I think just the more that you can talk through things ahead of time or set the expectation, the better.
Yeah. Being on the same page is huge. Yeah. I mean, that's
such good insight, right? Because it doesn't matter how long you've done this. Once the wedding day starts, like we talk about the bell ringing, once the bell rings, all bets are off. And so having this space the day before to just sit and collaborate and think through it a bit, look at it and go, here's what I see. Because once that bell rings, we arrive at that point, everybody's like, there's that 2 seconds, grab it, go. And so I get that's profound.
Yeah. And I think just applying this process to every wedding, no matter where you're at, even if you're not working in the luxury space yet, it's like wherever you want to go, you need to start implementing those things that, you need at that level to whatever level you're at now, and bringing that process every single time.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. Talk to me about your website. Like we use your website a fair amount as an example because of its simplicity. And I'm just kind of curious. I wanted to dig into that with you. Is that a strategic thing? Is that intentional, or is that something that tell us about that?
Yeah, great question. First off, I think it's really funny because I don't even consider it a website. It's a landing page with a contact form. And in the beginning, it wasn't intentional. In the beginning, I had a website up and I saw where I wanted to go, and I had some opportunities arising. And I said, you know what, my website is not a reflection of where I want to go and what I want to show. So I just took it down and I put up the landing page, and I put up this reel that I, will update every once in a while. And so in the beginning, it wasn't intentional at all. It was just to bring things more curated and not put things out there that weren't representative of where I wanted to go. But now it is strategic. I've had this conversation a few times this week, but I serve very private clients. Privacy is important to them for whatever, multitude of reasons. Yeah. But by not having a website that's showing these most intimate moments of people's lives, I think it builds a lot of trust immediately. Of course, I love to share things on Instagram. I love to post these preview videos and these reels and all of this stuff. And that's kind of my marketing. That's how I tell people, know what I'm about. But if you want to inquire with me and you want to see what a full highlight film is like, you have to email me and I have to send you that link privately, and it just builds this trust of like, hey, I'm not going to take your most intimate moment and your vows and these things that you're saying, or these, people who are speaking at your wedding. I'm not putting those online and using it to market myself. It's yours. And it's private, and I market my work in other ways. So it's intentional now, will that change, over time? I'm not so sure, but I think, it's just building that trust of like, hey, I respect this day as yours. It's not just me trying to build my portfolio. Like if you're fine with it, heck yes, let's have fun and like post stuff on Instagram and roll it out with, your planner and photographer. But if not, that's okay too. And that's something that I learned over time. And I learned, working with Easton events is, if you're going to be serving this type of clientele, They don't want to know that you're charging them an extra 5, 10, 20 or more % just to keep their wedding private. They want you to respect their privacy, and they don't want to see, some line itemed NDA fee, on your proposal or something. They just want that built in. And so that's really the approach that I take. And I think, it can be tough to hear, oh, I might not get to share anything from this wedding. Yeah. And that hurts. Like, that sucks when you're putting everything into it and you're so proud of it and it's so beautiful. You want to be able to share it. But if that's the type of clientele you want to go after, that's just part of the game. And you have to find the fire within yourself for other reasons to serve that client just as well as you would if you knew you got to put it on your website or online. That can't be what's motivating you. So, for me, first and foremost, it's serving my clients and my creative partners. And then if, I get to share it online, that is just like a cherry on top. And that's really fun and awesome. And I've had so many clients, just to wrap it up, but so many clients who said, oh, we're not sharing anything. And then they get that preview film, for social, they change their mind and totally. They post it within 2 seconds. Yeah. And, you're like, well, awesome. Like, now I had nothing to worry about. I'm so glad I didn't make a big deal of that earlier, because turns out it was never even a thing.
But that's because of you. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, James.
No, I was just going to ask you, what is your process for, because obviously you share things on Instagram, but I think it's important to talk about that process. How do you go about deciding or when to share? Is that something you're working collaboratively with the planner?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think, before I knew better, I was like, I want to be the first one to share something and I want to get it right out there and impress everyone. But now, I would never post anything before a planner saw it or before the client saw it. I want my clients to feel good about what's being out there, and I'm really putting myself in their shoes. Yeah. I would want to control what someone was putting out of me, much less on a day as intimate as that, or maybe if it's including my voice or something like that. I would want to have the final say on if that's going to go out there. And I think especially with video, we have seen how things can go viral, and we see the impact of that, good and bad. Yeah. So if you're going to put something out there and what's something that's out there, it's forever, make sure your client has seen it first and has approved it and has okayed it. And then also remember, the wedding planner, they've worked on this wedding so much longer than you have. They have been on it for at least a year, if not more oftentimes. And they deserve to have the first right to share that or, decide when that's going to be posted or, now we're so lucky with Instagram, we can do collaborative posts. This is a total game changer. And that requires even more conversation. I always like to talk with the photographer of, hey, what's your plan? When are you delivering previews? What's the social media rollout plan? And then if it's going to come down to collaborative posts, it's well, what do you guys want to share first? Who wants to be on this? What's the cover photo? What's the caption? There's just a lot of collaboration. Some people have time or they want to share it and some people don't. And so it kind of just depends. It's just having the conversation before or after of, hey, what's the rollout plan? And if you guys care, let's make a plan. People like Easton events, they have someone like Samantha Roberts who is, making a social media rollout plan and everything's going through her. I've worked with her on all of my Easton events, my Marcy Bloom wedding, my time that I shot Engage in Paris earlier this year. And Samantha Roberts, she understands social. She understands telling the story through photo and video. And I have become a better videographer, a better editor, a better shooter because of her and understanding the way that she thinks about these social media kind of launches or rollouts of events. And how you kind of brand it and tell that story and just working with her has been so powerful. Yeah.
It's such a great insight that idea. And this is where that collaboration comes in, right? Is that you see a strength in somebody else. And because I'm the same way, I look at an image oh my goodness, this is an amazing image. And Samantha might go, no, you don't want to post that because this, and this, and this. You're like, oh, I never thought of it that way.
But
that's the power of collaboration.
It's also having that conversation is another opportunity to connect with someone, right? Because you made this point, everybody doesn't have the same strategy. And Easton media rollout strategy is not the same as another planner. So even going to the table with an Easton assumed position to another planner, you could miss it, but instead ask. And now you get to have another conversation with the planner and with the photographer and show them you care, you're a good collaborator, and roll it out the right way. So instead of just posting and getting a little bit of ROI, you're still going to post, but you're getting ROI directly from the planner and from the designer and the photographer, and the post gets even more reach, right? And so it's like just wins on top of wins, which compounds to huge success, as opposed to just one-man show, mentality.
Exactly. And I think, it's also an opportunity if you're working with a planner who doesn't have someone who runs their social media. We all know social media is a full-time job. I have so much amazing work that I haven't shared because I just haven't sat down to get it all out there. But it can be a really great way to serve that planner and say, hey, do you have a vision for this? If they don't, if they're busy, if they're like, no, I have no idea, work with the photographer and put together a plan and be like, hey, this is the date we're going to share the rehearsal dinner. This is what we're going to show. And then the wedding story, this is it. And do all that work for them and put that together, present it to them. And then they'll be like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I'm so excited. Add me as collaborator, or I'll post it in this order. That's brilliant. It's just another way to serve.
Yeah, because, with the luxury market, we know this. Most of this work is coming through the planners. And you said it already. They've spent a year and a half working their butts off on this thing. So for them, the biggest asset in a photographer or a videographer, a team member, is someone that's easy to work with. It's not going to make their jobs harder. This is what you're talking about at every level. You're like, what do you need? How can I facilitate and collaborate with you on that? And that's repeat business. That's why you've worked with Easton many times since, aside from the amazing work. But that's a given, right? That's just a given at this level. The work is amazing. But the way you approach it, that's the differentiator. That's the exceptional, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's, it's just important to have these conversations and for people to understand, what goes on behind the scenes for everything to roll out and look effortlessly and seamless. And because we know there's a ton of work, there's a ton of collaboration and communication and foresight and, strategy that goes in the back end for it to come out on the other end looking just beautiful and effortless and amazing.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Incredible.
We hear lots of people talk about luxury weddings and the experience, that the experience is one of the most important things, especially for the client. All right. Tell us a little bit, you've kind of hinted at some of it, but tell us a little bit about how you approach a client's experience. How do you elevate their experience? What are things that you do that just are going to make that better? Yeah, for the client.
Yeah. So for the couple, for me, it's really taking their lead. It's listening to them if I have the opportunity to talk to them ahead of time, or just taking all these clues and taking a hint. So if I never get to talk to the client before the wedding, if I'm only communicating with the planner, I understand that the client's very busy, or maybe they're very private, or, they have other stuff going on. And so I'm taking their lead. I'm not going to send them a million emails. I'm not going to contact them outside of the planner. Obviously, they hired a planner because they want the planner to handle all of that communication for them. I'm not going to take that personally and be like, oh, they don't, want to hang out with me or care about me. This was their choice. So that's the same approach I take on the wedding day. I take the lead from the client. I read the room. I've had clients who said, hey, we don't even want to know that we have a photographer or a videographer at our wedding. We truly want it 100% candid. We don't want to pose for a single photo. And guess what? I did not talk at all that day. And it was amazing. It was such a cool experience. And, just to let them have the experience that they wanted
That's it.
And of course, there were things that I saw that I was like, I want to pose them and take them over there. But you know what? They wanted to enjoy cocktail hour.
Yeah.
And you know, they've had a million amazing parties and elaborate events. And this is their day to enjoy how they want to enjoy. And so I got to just be a documentarian. And that day, like, it truly was so magical. And they were so magical that it felt like I was living inside of a movie. And I was like, I can't believe that I get to witness this and experience this. And I'm so glad that, you know, I understood how important it was to them to just get to experience their wedding day, because that magic wasn't, you know, it didn't need to be directed. It didn't need anything additional to it. I just got to experience that. And I was like, gosh, I can't believe they're this cool like on their own. It was amazing. But, you know, and then I have clients who they really do, you know, want you to give them encouragement while you're posing them. They want you to tell you how to pose and, you know, all the things. So they have this like romantic, beautiful imagery that they want, that they value, that they want, you know, something that feels more editorial, or if they're like, we really care about portraits, like you tell us where we need to go at what time and we'll make it happen. So it's really just listening to them and understanding what they value, you know, and sometimes that means, you know, not pushing them to an uncomfortable position, but you might know they have this expectation of this stunning portraiture, you know, at this amazing location, and being like, hey, we have to make this happen at this time, and this is how, and I've worked out the logistics, and the car is going to pick us up at this point, and we have 5 minutes to go over there, and then we'll get you to cocktail hour. But, you know, they're like ready for it. That's what they want to happen. And they would be very disappointed if they got their photos and their video back and that was missing. And you know, that's on you to make that happen. So it's really just kind of reading the room, understanding their expectations. And, you know, it's the same with like how chatty you are with them or how friendly. I've had, you know, clients where it's like, they want to be your best friend and it's amazing. It's so cool. And then I've had other clients who are like, you know, they don't even like know that you're there. And that's amazing. They don't want to. And then they're just like amazed and wowed. And I've had clients who have said, oh my gosh, like, how did you make this video? We didn't even like see you, or we didn't even know you were there or whatever. And which is like such a great thing to hear, that, you know, we didn't take away from their experience or, you know, make it feel like some staged photo shoot or something.
I think that is the thing that we push the hardest. Probably the biggest skill of a videographer or photographer at a wedding is the ability to read the room, to feel people, to see the little things. Like you said, to be able to judge between, I'm not going to push at all, but there's expectation, so I need to just wangle it, you know. I have a side question for you here, because one of the most common objections we get is people say they're thinking about getting into luxury market. They go, it's not my kind of clients, very demanding, unkind, horrible, rich people. I'm curious, tell me your experience of our clients.
The best people, I mean, so easy to work with. Honestly, obviously the expectation is high. They've, like I said, they've experienced the best of the best in the world. And if you can kind of understand good service and, you know, I think it's as simple as like observing, like go to a really nice restaurant or go to a really nice hotel, even if you're not staying there because you can't afford, you know, $4,000 a night or whatever, like just go hang out in the lobby and observe and you'll just kind of start noticing and you'll have, you know, can develop this discernment of, well, that was appropriate or that wasn't appropriate, or, you know, this person really knows how to serve this clientele, or this person's not going to make it long at this restaurant, you know, like it's just kind of observing and understanding and seeing that. But no, I have had just the best clients. And you know, I think that many of our clients, like they just want to have a good time and they just want to have an epic party and be with their people and go somewhere beautiful. And they're just so gracious and so happy. Yeah. You know, I think at any level you can have a demanding client or whatever. It doesn't matter. And you can't group any kind of people into a category. But, you know, for me, I think I just know, you know, when I'm working with great photographers and great planners, you know, they're also qualifying the client and they're working with really great people. And so I can always trust, you know, these clients that my planners are bringing to me. But
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
been
that's
such a
interesting.
joy.
That what you just mentioned, that's something that we do as well. Maybe mom is having a moment with the bride, and we see it. I see it happening. Some tension comes in. I immediately go to James or vice versa and to the videographer and go, hey, just so you know, it's a little bit of a twist in the road there now, right? Again, we're collaborating. Everybody has the ability to read the room. Yeah, it's wonderful. That's our experience too. Like incredible clients, incredible people, humble, kind, thankful, every single weekend. And like you said, there are exceptions, but man, in a 20-year career, I can think of one or two exceptions, and that's it.
Absolutely. And I think like serving luxury, it's like everyone deserves luxury. It's like, this is a wedding day, and I don't know anyone who to them doesn't feel like they spent a lot of money or a lot of time on their wedding. So I really think that whatever the budget is, you should be serving it like it is a luxury event. Like they are a luxury client. Like it's their wedding day.
Yeah.
Like they deserve the best of the best from you and from everyone. And, that's how I would want to be treated on my wedding day, no matter if I was spending $4 million or $30,000 on a backyard event. Like it would be just as special to me as it is to anyone. So I think, having this mindset and showing up to serve and to serve well and to serve your clients the way that they want to be served. And that's kind of, to me, the mindset. And then obviously the goal is for your pricing to catch up to that. And, then you're really living the dream. But I think I just like to remind people, like, everyone deserves that experience. Every time I've ever gone on vacation, it's like, yeah, I want to be treated like I'm the queen because this is my vacation and I've taken time and money and sure, I just think everyone deserves that kind of treatment.
Do you think that that's something you were just good at, or have you learned how to do that? How to read the room?
Good question. I think it's both. I didn't grow up, going to like luxury vacations or restaurants or anything. But I do think, maybe part of it, I was an only child. So I've always been an observer, and I was an introvert. So I've always been an observer, and I'm always kind of reading a room and kind of figuring out the dynamics. And I just love people. And that's why I studied art history, is because I like to observe things and like learn things about people and their motivations and what they value. And I think it just like takes a little bit of listening and watching and hearing to understand people and then to better serve them.
Yeah, that's amazing.
No, I just think that's such a great piece of advice, because as you were saying, it doesn't matter what wedding you're photographing or filming, like being there to serve people and try to read the room, as opposed to going there to get a portfolio piece. Right, because you're going to do both, right? If you do both, you can do both.
Yeah.
But you're going to miss, if all you're going is for a portfolio piece, you're going to miss the other part. And you're right, that's someone's wedding day. It's such a good reminder.
Yeah, because I say to photographers sometimes, remember, you're not even a guest at the wedding. You're not even invited, right? You're here to serve them. It's their vision. So sometimes people are like, well, what about this? I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. You've said it so many times in this call. What does the client want? How do they want this experience to feel? Do they want it to feel like an over-the-top production? Then let's do that. They want it to feel completely hands-off, just a party. We do that. That's the skill level, right? And you see this, to your point about going to a luxury property or a restaurant. That's what you see there. They eliminate steps, but they do it in a very subtle way. Like if you walk into a nice hotel, 5-star property in the lobby, people don't descend on you like a Macy's and go, can I help? But the moment you have like a puzzling look on your face, it's like somebody just is there. And that's what I hear in you as well. You're away, but you're watching and you're looking and so you're anticipating, and that's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think customer service and just remembering we're not guests. We weren't invited. It's a privilege for us to get to witness these private moments and, see these people in this setting, whether it's you're serving like a doctor or a business person. And like, I always like to imagine like, oh my gosh, like so few people that they interact with on a daily basis gets to see this side of them, like this relaxed side of them, this happy party side of them, this part of them that it's crying and bawling. Like, it's such a privilege, and so few people get to see it, and much less to capture that for forever, to last forever. And I love, knowing that I'm making something that's going to matter in 10, 20, 30 years to someone. So, we're very privileged to serve. And, I just always approach my job as someone who's there to serve, like we're in the service industry, and yes, we're creatives and we're artists, and like, that's super special and cool. But, we're ultimately like back of house, schlepping, and like, it is not glamorous because we're making magic, and we're a part of, a fantasy, and we're a part of something that isn't every day. And it takes a lot of hard, unglamorous work behind the scenes to pull off this fairy tale, for someone.
It's exceptional.
I love it. So I love that this 45 minutes has felt exactly like the 3 days we spent with you in France. Like,
no, it's the exact same. It's the exact same vibe. Within 5 minutes, it's like the same.
Yeah.
Love it. It's so clear. It's so clear why you have had so much success. Honestly, in a very short time, comparatively, I think,
Yeah.
It's because of this. It's your attitude's just perfection. The way you look at it.
Thank you.
It really is.
I appreciate that.
That's not just like smoke. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we all have our moments, but I think, we just have to come back to why we do this, and what it is that motivates us, and how lucky we are that our job is weddings. Like, we're so lucky.
It's so crazy though, right? I listened to your story and how you came into this. I think of my own story. If you had given me 1,000 guesses when I was 10, 15, 20, 25, I wouldn't have guessed wedding vendor, a wedding friender or whatever, like whatever you want to call it, photographer, videographer. And so this is the wonderful thing about this industry again. It's such a mix of people from all over. Very few people sat and dreamt of becoming a wedding photographer or a wedding planner. Very few. Mm-hmm. And so it's a beautiful mix, And like you said in the beginning, especially in the luxury space, it's over the top and it's out of this world, but it undergirds, it feeds a whole space of people that are just regular people. Like, it feeds our kids, it feeds their dreams, it feeds our dreams. It's a humbling place to be in, it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm fortunate that I've been able to be strategic and take opportunities and get really lucky with a lot of stuff. And I always just keep in mind that this business I have because I want to define my own life. I want to define my own definition of success and lifestyle, and how much I work or don't work, or what that looks like. So, I'm always serving my clients, but also I choose this lifestyle because I want to define my own life, and I don't want to be tied to a corporate job. So, there are seasons of, maybe I want to work a ton and I have a certain, financial goal, or I want to travel the world. But there are also seasons where maybe you have something going on where you want to be home for that and you don't want to travel as much. And just realizing, there are seasons of life in business, and you don't have to compare yourself to someone else in this industry. You just have to set your own definitions of success and really work backwards to get there.
I love it.
That quote was probably the best thing of the whole talk or the podcast so far for me. Define your own life. That desire to define your own life. That's huge, right? Because it's one thing to think that way and to come up with that definition, which will take time and trial and error. You also have to make it happen. It puts it right back on you. Like you said, in our industry especially, you don't have to beat everybody. If you can simply outwork everybody and they don't even know who you are. This is very, very possible in our space.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So define your own life. I dig it.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, I've enjoyed this so much. You're working on something special for the industry. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I'm in the process, depending on when it comes out, when this episode comes out. But my mom, she's my full-time assistant, and together we're working on creating a resource with licensed drone operators in the US and a few select destinations. But, this is something that, I've ran into, I think we've all run into, where, we just don't have the ability to fly the drone and capture what we want on the wedding day because we're busy with our clients on the ground. And, I know a lot of photographers or videographers who just need that extra set of hands to help out. So I'm putting together a resource and a list of licensed professional, can attend a black tie event, licensed drone pilots. So be on the lookout for that. That's something that I'll sell. It'll be, at a really low cost, but it's just a resource that I've just heard over and over again of people needing, and I've seen the need for it. And we've all had instances where, a venue last minute is asking for everyone's license. And not everyone is operating as a licensed drone pilot. So I want to, put that resource together of licensed pilots for us all to, find freelance work.
Yeah, smart. And we'll get that information from you and put it in the show notes when we release this, so
amazing,
everyone can access that. It's going to be a very useful resource.
Yeah,
sure.
Awesome.
Look, I mean, we knew this was going to be good, Peyton, but like seriously, you're inspiring. Like you're just wonderful. All
you
of
guys,
it.
thank you. You've just hyped me up the whole time, and you two are just such a delight and true artist. And I love the way that you see the world and capture the world and have built your business. And it's such that we're always navigating that dance between being an artist and being a business person. And I think the two of you just encapsulate that and embody that so beautifully. So thank you for everything that you're doing to elevate, this industry.
Yeah. Oh, no, gosh.
Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
And I'm telling you, like, again, if you guys want to know if this works, how the philosophy works, I'm literally thinking of ways on this call, how we can work together more. I'm just going, okay. Because this is how enticing this is. This is how appealing somebody like this is. Like, you want to play with them. You know what I mean? Like, it's that simple. It's huge. Huge.
Oh, well, thank you both so much for having me.
Thank you.